What's going on, guys? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. If you're listening to us from YouTube, welcome to another episode of Crypto World Radio. If you're here on Twitter Spaces, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Christmas edition. Ho, ho, ho. So, anyways, if you're listening to us from YouTube, feel free to click that like button and subscribe. Turn on bell notifications so you can get updates throughout the week for our content. And if you're here on Twitter Spaces, feel free to come on up today. We're doing more of a laid back, more of a casual space. And I don't really expect many people to come up at the moment in general, given that it's the day before Christmas. So I thought for today's episode, we're going to give a 2022 year overview, kind of like look back at the recent events and see if the evidence was given from a mile away. Right, we've had many things happen this year. We've had the situation with many hedge funds like Three Arrows Capital, and also FTX going under, and also Terra, and many other things like Voyager and Celsius. So we can kind of go over those and also give our opinions on how 2022 went for us. So I see we have some of our usuals. What's going on, Vestige? What's going on, Adonis? We also have somebody new up on the stage, Kraka. So what's going on, guys? How's everyone doing today? We'll start off the show with Adonis. He's been up here, I think, only like one time, I believe. So Adonis, man, the floor is all yours, brother. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Just having a little late dinner or a little early dinner. Just wanted to check in and join Wabi's Christmas edition episode. I'm good, man. I'm ready to get over with 2022 and looking forward to 2023, my guy.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I think this year, as far as like the Fed is concerned, I think the soft landing has been achieved, but now it's like the other story, which is quote unquote some pain. Um, so who knows where that is, right? But I think like at least at least like 2/3 of this current macro cycle to the downside is finished. Um, in regards to crypto as well, I think crypto is going to bottom out before stocks do, but not by much, in my opinion. But yeah, man, this is a casual Wabi and Friends Spaces. I used to host some of these back in the day, and it's good to be here with you guys. Adonis, I do have a question though. What are you having for dinner? Are you having like Solana spaghetti, Monero meatballs? Are you having are you having the Elrond eggplant? What are you having,
So,
dude?
hey, man. So I got the Cardano grilled chicken, right? I got the Wazder whole wheat pasta, and I got the Solana spinach, bro. Sauteed spinach. Let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And how did you make that payment, dude? What chain did you use for that payment?
Oh, you know, 8x, bro.
That's what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah,
All
man.
right.
2023, I already had the conversation with all my tenants, man. They're all going to be paying their rent on the AVAX chain.
Exactly. Vestige, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm good. I'm out in the wild currently right now. That is not my office at home. I'm doing some last minute Christmas shopping for the sister's child because Christmas is about children, right?
Right, Vestige, you're having a bit of a mic situation, man. I'm not sure if like you have the phone uh mic covering with your fingers. So
No, I'm
yeah,
on uh, I'm on my headset or my AirPods.
yeah. Uh, it's not the best quality, man, but it's all good, man. So I guess I'll start off. I guess I'll start off with myself. Um, going into the new year, I played that small bounce on chain. Didn't really think we would make all-time highs this year, and I thought it would have been more of like a choppy sideways year, and not necessarily um, this horrid this horrid season of every 3-4 months something bad was happening, but
Okay, how are
you
you now?
roll
Can
with
you hear
the
me?
punches. Yeah, you're
All
good.
right, all right.
You're good now. You're good now. You're good now. Um, so for me, I think the craziest part this entire year was the Terra USD collapse. And for those of you who don't know, I was actually caught in that, but I managed to escape during that first bounce. So thankfully, I avoided that. And usually, when you're in crypto, you always have like an event that makes you kind of take your risk management a lot more seriously. So after that event, I took out a huge portion of everything that I had into crypto, and I just moved most of it to actual like physical cash. And yeah, and the summertime, I wasn't really aware of the situation with Three Arrows Capital. I would have never have thought that they were caught in this whole contagion effect. But come to show on Father's Day, it turns out they were liquidated at, what was it, 28K. But outside of that, I thought that that was a good time to play a small bounce over the summer. Waited that out a bit. Didn't really get into any plays until like late June, early July. Rode Matic and Ave for like 50 to 60%, and I think in August, me and Adonis were on a space, and we saw that Caroline Ellison was the new CEO of FTX. And in that moment, everything that I had on exchanges, I had set a stop loss in, and they got hit immediately, almost immediately, within the night. And after that, I didn't really mess around too much. Probably like the only thing I really did was things with Atom and Wazder, but nothing really significant with literal chump change. And my my thought process after Terra USD was like, all right, this is probably similar to 2018, where we're probably gonna dump hard into the summer, pump out of it, and then retrace back to near lows, and then dump sometime in quarter four. And by the time we got to quarter four, I believe it was when CZ had put that tweet out. Um, I thought, at least in my eyes, that that was similar to the tweet that Galois Capital put out when they were talking about Terra and their imminent collapse. So, with that being said, it was kind of 50-50 with FTX going under. And it wasn't until Caroline put out that tweet about purchasing Binance's FTT for $22 per token or share, however you want to refer to FTT. And in that moment, I thought that that was essentially the whole steady lads deploying more capital. And I remember I had texted Max, the CEO of Because of Bitcoin, and I told him about the situation. And I had also sent him a text message from a friend of a friend saying that Sam was calling up Binance, asking for a bailout, this, that, and the other. And, we hosted a space that night, and there were like 600 people in them, and some pretty recognizable names in the crypto Twitter sphere. And yeah, that that was quite a space, and we had people getting angry at each other, saying that, oh, you're fighting FTX, this and the other. And during that space, I was slowly starting to withdraw. And the day that Binance US declared bankruptcy, I remember it so clearly. It happened within the same hour that equities had closed, and I think I had like 6 grand left on FTX US. Because you do have like 24-hour withdrawal periods where you can only take out a certain amount, and I had like 6 grand left. And like right when equities closed, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna withdraw the rest of my USDC. And I think I also had a little bit of like Aave and Near, nothing too crazy. Withdrew that into cold storage. And literally like 30 minutes later, FTX had declared bankruptcy, and it was like the wildest thing ever, right? So for me, it was like, all right, the probability of them going down was 90%. But the 10% of me is like, whatever. I just like have some change there, right? But something in my gut was like, all right, time to get the fuck out. And I saw FTT at like, it was like $16, and then it got rejected off of $22 and was heading straight back down. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting the fuck out with this small pocket I have left here. And I compare that to something like Terra. Um, like honestly, like a lot of you guys, UFC survivors, market, but given individuals in protocol was going to be headed, I started acting really cocky. Yeah, I knew that Luna was going to single digits, but I didn't necessarily expect UST to start a death spiral over the last, like, I think it was like 5-6 days after, for UST to go from like, a shitcoin consolidating from 50 to 60 cents all the way back down to 3-4 cents, wherever it is now. So, oh, my bad, Vestige. My bad. And so, with that being said, as far as Celsius goes, I recall Mashinsky being on an interview many times with other Bitcoiners in the space, and he was being pressed as to, where does the yield come from? And Mashinsky would pretty much say the same thing that all the BitConnect influencers would say in late 2017. And that's when I got in. That's when I got in the space. I'll bring you up too, new bro. Give me one moment. Okay. So, with that being said, I never really paid attention too much to Celsius. I honestly thought it was just like um, just another style of BitConnect, to be honest. But I knew retail was like gonna get absolutely slaughtered one day. I just didn't think that it would be so soon, given that Celsius was actually born in the 2018 bear market. So definitely, like, the biggest takeaway for me, um, as far as the user standpoint goes, is that 2022 was essentially an onslaught for retail, and 90% of the new front ends that retail was exposed to got taken down, right? So by front ends, I'm talking exchanges, I'm talking the easiest DeFi protocols, right? If you guys remember, if any of you used Anchor, it was like the easiest DeFi interface to use, right? If you look at Voyager, right, or Celsius, they were essentially like the crypto version of Robinhood, where you had your nice UI, and it was with the click of a button, right? Buy any shitcoin, and then you not only are you having direct exposure to the shitcoin, but you also have liquid staking in some regards. And what that means is you're holding a derivative product of a DeFi product, but with limited yield, and that yield is essentially derived from the amount of users using that product. So it's essentially the platforms using the user as leverage, and it's consistent, right? And one thing that I noticed is after the Terra collapse, these platforms were still offering yield, right? And as most of you know, in the DeFi space, stablecoins only pay out yield, right, on certain platforms when there's a demand for them. So when you see like Ethereum's DAI stablecoin being processed and printed out, or things like USDC being printed out, or things like Tether being printed out, that essentially tells you that there's demand in the system, right? Predominantly for upside, not so much downside. Like, it wasn't too out of the ordinary, right, to see Tether print out something like 10 billion within the span of like a quarter, right? 3 months. And, you know, with that being said, I started to worry about like, all right, it's probably time to not use DeFi. And I have not used a single DeFi protocol outside of like Uniswap, um, since the days of Anchor, right? I think I've used Osmosis like 2 times since then, and that was like to get some Atom, but nothing like too significant. So when I look at 2022 and I compare it to 2018, the damage that 2022 has inflicted, at least on retail, is a lot more severe. In 2018, all you really had were MLM schemes, right? Like BitConnect and other scams like cloud mining. And for those of you who don't know, like what cloud mining is, it's essentially you locking up your Bitcoin for a certain percent of like quote unquote yield off of an invisible mining company. So essentially, it's a scam. It's a scam. And so you had those things fall out, and you also had altcoin projects that were funded via an ICO. And an ICO, guys, is essentially a fundraise, either a public or private fundraise, where a scam project is asking users to send an ETH for another token, which could or could not be a derivative of what that company or scam produces, right? And that was some form of leverage where all these projects were just rushing to dump all of their Ethereum once they were allowed to send all their tokens out to investors, because those investors are going to dump. And if you're a project and you hold a portion of those projects that your investors are going to dump, then the easiest way to make yourself liquid is to sell the asset that you were given. So they would all sell their Ethereum. So it was essentially everyone dumping on each other monstrously. If you guys look at any top 10, top 20 token on CoinMarketCap in 2018, in comparison to their Q4 highs, you will see that they essentially experienced a 70 and 80% drawdown within 2 months of their high, right? And if you compare that to 2020, to like Q1 of 2022 relative to their Q4 highs, you still had things like Solana at over $200. You still had Terra hitting all-time highs. You still had DeFi hit all-time highs. The stablecoin supply was still going rampant, right? So it was a bit more merciful, right? But that mercy came at an expense. It came at the expense of leverage, where people got hurt, right? But for the most part, it was individuals with no risk management and complete degeneracy that got wiped out, right? Um, because you know that if there has been exuberant gains in a short amount of time, and there's all this froth, and you have people selling monkey pictures, right, on the Ethereum blockchain for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that PFP doesn't really produce anything other than, I'll buy and sell at at a higher price, right? You give me a monkey picture, I want to sell it at a higher price, right? And so on and so forth. With that being said, um, that's really all I have to say in regards to comparing 2018 to 2022. But 2018, for the most part, pretty much all ICOs got rugged to like 98, 97% from their ICO funding evaluations. And a lot of them just never came back. And some of their founders just completely rugged and left the crypto ecosystem. And I remember some of these names like Neo. Um, that project was just completely abandoned, and all of their side projects just halted development, and all they had was a website. And yeah, it's there was a lot more like chaos, I guess, in inner circle communities, where people thought that like, oh, like Bitcoin is never going to come back again, Bitcoin is dead, right? And people confuse it. People confuse like Bitcoin and crypto a lot. um Bitcoin is kind of like the Dow Jones or the S&P, and everything else is literally like the Nasdaq, right? Like just pure growth trash for the most part, right? So those are my views, right, in a nutshell. And if you guys wanna kind of give your thoughts, we can start off with Adonis. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, you know where I stand. I pretty much leave the DeFi and the altcoin knowledge to you. I'm a boomer in this sense. I'm an old school guy. I'm old fashioned. I like to stack sats. I like to stack the corn. Sometimes I fuck around with a little Litecoin when I'm feeling a little slutty, you know. um, but what I was actually going to ask you is, what do you know, for 2023? I mean, obviously, you know, your space has turned into educational DeFi spaces, and then we morphed into, you know, Paul Volcker Doom spaces. What are we looking for 2023?
So for myself personally, I'm just following what the Fed is saying. Um, just to be honest, my original intent, and I mean, you can ask Carter about this. My intent was initially to look at the monthly close for March and then just go on sabbatical, just sell everything and come back in late Q4. Did I do that? Absolutely not. Um, I should have, but whatever, right? At least I didn't get blown out to zero. Sometimes haircuts happen and sometimes they don't, but it's learning from them, right? I've paid my tuition and thankfully at the end of the year, I've remained solvent. So, you know, if Jerome Powell is saying there's going to be a soft landing, but with some pain, I kind of feel like there's two stories to that. There's a soft landing and then there's some pain. Um, I think we've achieved somewhat of a soft landing, right? But that quote unquote some pain happens when the pivot occurs. And I think it's going to be something akin to what you saw in late 2018, where you have the S&P go down by 15, 20% within the month. So something that I can compare that to, right? You can look at June, where the S&P opened, I think it was at 4,100, and the low of that month was 3,600, something along those lines. So something like 15% ish, potentially 20, potentially a little bit worse than June. So you know when that happens, I honestly think that the parity between Bitcoin and the S&P is going to be restored. And what I mean by that is if you look at pre-COVID highs, right? Pre-COVID highs is like 3,200, 3,300. If you look at February 2020, right? And if you look at the price of Bitcoin, the price of one BTC was at about $9,000 to $10,000. So I think that that parity is going to be restored, but not to the exact extent. So I think Bitcoin is going to be just a little bit stronger. So something like 11,000, 12,000, something along that area. And at that point, that's where I become an investor, right? Like if things were different, right? If things were different, then I would feel comfortable loading up here. But the fact of the matter is, the Nasdaq looks like trash. If the Nasdaq were to have a bad week, right, with the first week of the year, um, then 8,500 Nasdaq would come pretty quick. There's nothing but air under 10K until that 8,500 mark, which was around the same level when all the stimulus checks started being poured out into the economy, where PPP loans were being handed out like cupcakes on a Sunday morning, right? And I think around that level, when you adjust it for money supply and inflation, I think at that point we're going to be undervalued. So, you know, I don't necessarily think that Jerome Powell's going to turn on the money printer, because if I'm in the mind state that all right, Bitcoin is bottomed, then I'm pretty much saying that the S&P is gonna stop and growth isn't gonna shit the bed, you know. And that PE from Tesla still like kind of irks me. And Bitcoin and Tesla have always had a correlation over the last like 4.5 years, when Elon started expressing his opinions about Bitcoin and crypto more publicly. This isn't the first time that Elon has been expressive. He was tweeting out about Ethereum back in like early 2019, late 2018, right? And yeah, that's kind of like my 2023 outlook. Something along the lines of, once I see CPI back at 3-4%, and I see the Nasdaq under 9,000, S&P below pre-COVID highs, at that point, then I'm good. We have a lot more headwinds for equities than we do with crypto, right? The only thing we have with crypto right now, um, as far as like, how do I say it? I don't want to say rational, but the probability. I want to say probability. The probability for something like Binance to go under is about, like, I would put it at a factor of 20%, right? Something with Grayscale, probably like 10-15%. I think they're going to go under a restructure and not so much bankruptcy. But again, that's just me. Of course, if those things happen, then obviously we see a 4-digit number. But for myself, for 2023, I see the lows being put in late Q1, early Q2, around that area, given the seasonality of equities whenever they go through these bear markets. And if not, right, and if this thing drags on, and it's essentially like 2022, but inflation's at a steady pace, and Jerome Powell actually does what he's saying, inflation at 2% and multiple readings at 2%, then, I mean, dude, you can have the S&P at 2,800 this time next year, inflation at 2%, nobody bats an eye. But you can see crypto, in the high 4 digits. But again, it's all a matter of probability, right? And for me, the probability is a situation. For me, the higher probability is a situation where the band-aid just gets ripped off, and we have that capitulation. So essentially, like a faster version of the dot-com bubble, but with like a March 2019 ending, right? So those are my thoughts going into 2023. I'm still in cash. I'm not really doing any trade, to be honest. I'd rather sit back and let this all play out, to be honest. I've been in this industry for 5 years now, and I did not take a single day off until the Ethereum merge. And just looking at myself, being in front of a computer screen at 4 in the morning, you know, using a leverage exchange like a degenerate, having bags under my eyes, and I'm training like a maniac, trying to be one of the strongest men in the world at the same time. I decided to, you know what, man, I think I've earned my keep over the last few years. I'm going to relax. I'm going to take a break, let all of this resolve. And I don't regret not taking like any significant trade over the last quarter at all whatsoever. And people can take that as they will, but I'd rather spend my time researching on what developments there are in the industry, rather than trying to trade a 2% range with 10 to 20x leverage. I'd rather spend my time doing that and connecting with people that can further my knowledge and expand on the current education that I've absorbed, rather than trying to extract value. I'd rather find ways to supplement income rather than trying to extract value from this market. I think that should be a focus for individuals in 2023. And I understand, like, for some individuals, trading is that supplementary income. But for myself in this environment, this is what I deem um, untradeable circumstances. Everyone has their system, and that's fine. But I just refuse to use a leveraged platform whatsoever in this environment, because I do not know what this industry looks like out of a recession. Going into a recession, right, is fine, but when you reach that breaking point, right, that Q1 2009 breaking point, I don't know what this industry looks like. So, excuse me, I would rather wait for that some pain to happen and then back up the truck. And when it pertains to things like DeFi, I don't know what that looks like um, when we're at 5% interest rates. Because one thing that I've noticed is that every time the Fed funds rate goes up by a full percent, right? Like 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Something catastrophic always happens to this to something catastrophic has happened to this market, right? Raise it up by 1%, right? What happened in that environment? Terra, UST, completely gone. Raise it by 2%, what happened? Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, gone. Raise it by 3%, people are whispering about FTX, this, that, and the other. Liquidity starts literally falling off of a cliff on exchanges, and Bitcoin is moving within a $300-$400 range. And then we get to 4%. Look at what's happened. FTX completely shot the bed. And then BlockFi, shot the bed as well. And so I don't know what's going to happen next at 5%, right? As much as I like this project or that project that's down 90% and they make cash, this, that, and the other, I don't know if that team is exposed to the next entity that's going to fall, or if that token is about to be delisted if Gary Gensler actually does what he says, right? And the thing with the SEC is that they like to play good cop, bad cop. So, they'll tell you that, you know what, I'm going to come after you and I'm going to rug you. But they take their time, right? So, like with Terra, right? Gary actually sent somebody out to serve Do Kwon a subpoena when he was down here in New York in September of 2021, right? But how long did that take? That took what, 8 months for Terra to go under, right? So I do think regulation is coming, but as a whole, right, for the space, I think it's going to take time. But if Gary goes towards one entity, then it's probably going to be resolved within the year, right? If you take a look at when he tried serving Sam, I believe Gary Gensler actually said that FTX is under investigation or FTX is being probed by the SEC, right? And consistently, this wasn't just one report. And look at what happened the following quarter, right? So, yeah, those are my thoughts on reg and how I see 2023.
Yeah, man. I mean, I completely agree. This is all, speculative industry, and it needs cheap money to thrive, and that's just the reality. And I mean, if you're looking for Bitcoin to be, to make, fancy new highs, or even, get to, elevated levels, you need that extra liquidity out there. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what survives an extended bear market, depending on how bad this gets. It'll be interesting to see who is able to make it on the other side. It's one thing, in the last cycle, we saw a lot of Dino coins that didn't make it. There's tons of tokens that weren't able to make it on the other side. We've got way more tokens now, obviously. It's going to be interesting to see who's just going to be able to keep it up. I'm going to guess that there's just not going to be that many. There's going to be a lot of things that fold. There's going to be a lot of projects that just kind of fall apart. But I think that, stronger projects will, and this is how it just generally works in all economies, and they'll just, they'll incorporate developers, and, people will move to, the strongest projects. And, I know that all this shit kind of sucks in the meantime, but on the same token, it's times like this that actually create, the next best thing. You look at any of the tech companies that, made people super wealthy in the last decade, they all came out of bear markets, dude. They didn't come out of bull markets. So, I mean, this is the time, it's a meme in crypto, keep building. But essentially, it is what it is. That's how this works. This is the time where, the casino's closed. You know, like you're not going to get rich right here. There's really no money to be made. But like people will still build, and there's going to be a point where liquidity comes back to the market, and it's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like. And I think like right now, the best thing to do is like rest up, take care of yourself, get healthy, and research. Prepare yourself for that moment. And also, like accumulate as much cash as possible. That's the way you handle opportunities. Like that's how you handle bear markets. I mean, that's just kind of my 2 cents on this thing. You got to have a strategy. And even when the next bull market comes back, like I think another thing, like a lot of people should take into consideration is just that risk management, dude. You don't want to get blown up. Like there's probably going to be another curve there as well. And you just want to be in a position where, you're smart with your money. You take your profits on things that you're riding for a trade. And yeah, man, just have a plan, dude, and execute.
Yeah, I think for my generation, millennials, Gen Z, given that we were so young during 2008, 2009, we weren't able to jump on those opportunities. So I think this next bottom that's likely going to be put in either late Q1, early Q2, late Q4, whenever it happens. I do think it's going to be next year. I do not think this is going to drag on for 10 plus years, like some individuals in the economic world are speculating on.
Say the name.
I think Drunken Miller said something like that. But
Wait, what's his name?
Drunken Miller. Yeah. Drunken Schmiller, dude.
There we go.
But it's odd because like Drunken Miller is like a mega bear on America, but he's bullish on crypto in the meantime, and I don't think that's going to work out whatsoever. What I do think is that over the next 10 years, crypto is still going to be like acting the way it does, where it'll have bull and bear markets within the broader equity economy here in America. So if you look at something like 2014, right, it was a bear market for crypto, right? In Q4 2014, the market was shitting the bed, but the S&P and the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones were roaring to all-time highs. But crypto was in a bear, right? Same thing with 2018, right? Tech went to Valhalla in 2018, but crypto shot the bed, right? So I think crypto is just going to act the same way, but potentially going into something like the 2030s, you might have like little small bull and bear markets with both equities and crypto at the same time. So that's just my speculation, though. That's more of like a tinfoil hat theory, thinking that, oh, there's going to be there's going to be something implemented within the monetary system, whether that's CBDCs or what have you. Why not? Right. Even though I do think America, it's going to take a longer time for CBDCs to be rolled out, as far as like over 50% of the population getting them. I think as far as the rest of the world go, for sure. You take a look at the UK, bro, there are already small businesses that don't even take cash. You want to know what that tells you? That means that big businesses are likely to follow. The way the little man starts is the way big businesses end, right? If you take a look at what occurred during COVID, the first people to implement mask wearing were the small businesses. If you take a look at the businesses that said, oh, you can't enter here unless you're vaccinated, or you can't hold a party unless you're vaccinated, they were all small businesses. And then big businesses eventually implemented the same thing, where corporate America fired a lot of their staff just because they wouldn't take their booster shot from Ukraine. So that's what I have to say about that. A bit wild, but it had to be said.
You made a good point. I think you made a good point about the CBDCs, and it's what I was going to bring up before you said it. In 2017, 2018, when I knew about Bitcoin, but when I first got really exposed and really started paying attention, I never would have anticipated that they were obviously in a sci-fi kind of thinking in a frame, you can kind of think these things, but I mean, like, dude, it's a reality. It's here. Now, you're right. I 100% agree, and I've been saying this for the past year. Like, I don't think CBDCs in the US are right around the corner. And it just kind of goes to the way that, like, things are structured in the US. There's just so many layers. Um, and it's going to involve so much cooperation. But with other countries, I mean, you can literally roll these things out in a heartbeat. And so there's going to be, like, use cases for certain types of decentralized crypto. And it's just a fact, like whether it's Bitcoin or whatever the fuck it's going to be, um, it's going like it's going to have a use case in the sense where there's going to be people that are not going to want to use whatever CBDC is available to them, just because I mean, essentially a CBDC, it's like that's censorship money, right? So like all across the world, I think that like there's going to be a forced adoption into crypto, because people are just going to have to. I mean, you got to understand that like paper money is the most private thing you could possibly imagine, and now essentially, and it's happening more and more all across the world. Where I mean, everybody's got a phone and everybody's got a mobile wallet. I'd probably say that like we're probably like still like kind of more rural in that like in the United States in the sense where like man, I still use cash. Like I primarily use cash. Um, I mean, I'm just old school like that, and that's not the case in the rest of the world. And it's going to be really easy for certain governments to just like on ramp CBDCs because I mean, essentially, it's one government, right? Like they run everything, and it's not exactly like that here. There's just different entities and different layers. And obviously, there's the government, but like our banking system controls our monetary system here. And the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. And you've got the euro dollar banks across the world, right? It's gonna be a little more tricky for that to all get rolled out in the US. And we've just learned with history in the US that the US kind of takes a different approach and takes kind of the path of least resistance in a lot of ways. So I think it'll be the last thing here. And honestly, it's probably least needed in the United States. Like our monetary system is still, kind of fine in some ways. I know that's kind of crazy to say, but like essentially we have a government that can take on as much debt as it wants. We have banks that you can go to and you can basically print money for as long as like you have like a deposit and like a job, like you have access to money, even now, like with rates being high, like you can still go buy a house, you can still go buy a car, like you can go to the Apple store, you can finance a phone, you can pretty much buy anything on a monthly payment plan. And it's like, this is a rare place in the world where we have access to whatever we want. And like, you could buy it on a payment plan. That shit doesn't exist in other places in the world. So like, it's already happening in other places and you're going to see them. I mean, I don't remember whose space, it might have been one of your spaces, Wabi, but there was a dude who was in China and
Yeah, I
he was
remember him. I remember
yeah,
him.
dude,
Yeah.
he was talking about this like, dude, he's like, I really don't give a shit about the price of Bitcoin, dude. He's like, I can't keep my wealth. Like, there's no stock market. Like, the real estate market is tanked. Like, I can't keep the yuan. Like, I mean, like, I have no other option. And like, we have to understand that like this is going to be a reality, like in the next couple of years for everyone else in the world. And like, they're going to be looking at crypto as like, it's not going to be like a speculation for them. It's going to be a necessity, right? Like, and that's going to be to me like that's your next bull market when the whole world is completely on ramped, and it's going to start with their own governments.
Yeah, I just wonder how that front is going to look like. I know Magoo was saying how, there was some survey that said that some banking entity back in, I think it was back in this article a few weeks back, where some banks are going to have approval to hold 2% of their asset custody in crypto, right? And when you match that up with the front end that J.P. Morgan and Schwab and I'm not sure who the other like big name brokerages are, given that I don't trade equities, but the big boys, essentially them having front ends for retail clients to purchase their BTC, ETH, Litecoin, etc. That coincided with the approval that's going to go through in early 2025. I think that's a case. So how that looks like as far as like the rest of the world with CBDCs, I'm not sure. Perhaps something like, um, your Bitcoin or your Ethereum that you purchase with this CBDC, potentially it could be like wrapped, right? Like CBDC wrapped Ethereum or Bitcoin, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. And I remember you saying that JP Morgan uses this weird blockchain called, what's it called, dude? What's it called?
Oh man, I can't think of it. But
Ethereum?
oh no,
Something like
that's the
that?
Fed. The Fed coin runs on Cypherium.
Cypherium, yeah, yeah. So potentially, like, perhaps they make Cypherium open sourced and it's like you trade your wrapped BTC and wrapped CBDC Ethereum on that chain, right? But again, that's like speculation. But I do think that, Bitcoin and crypto as a whole experience another like 2017, 2021 type of year. Um, I just don't see like the whole regulation thing happening immediately. Those things take time. They take 10 plus years, man. Right? I mean, just look at all the trash that was listed on the Nasdaq over the last like 13 years, dude. Like zombie companies, right? So I think the same thing is going to apply to crypto next year, right? If you want to compare the Nasdaq and crypto, right? The Nasdaq was established in like 1973, 1974, around there. So if you compare how old BTC has been trading on the open market, it's essentially placing us at the same time period of 1987, right? So with that being said, I think the next cycle is going to be like truly the .com moment. And in .com, remember, like everyone and their mother was investing in websites and all that stuff. It wasn't just something that was kept in the clear, right? And that Nasdaq bubble is a lot stronger than the Nasdaq bubble that we had last year, right? Like the Nasdaq literally went like 15x off of the 85 low, so that's 15 years, right? Or the 87 low, it went up like 14, 15x. And if you compare that to the low that the Nasdaq hit after the great financial crisis, we barely did a 10x, dude. Barely, barely. And when you adjust that for money supply, dude, and inflation, dude, this latest Nasdaq bubble pales in comparison to the .com bubble. The amount of wealth that was created in that bubble in 2000 was asinine. It was probably a once in a lifetime thing, but I say that now, but it's only now where I get to experience a recession. And given the current like Fed officials, we don't know what getting out of a recession looks like, right? Do they do infinite QE, right? COVID style, where they're just handing out a bunch of money? Listen to this, right? People are used to stimulus checks. They're used to getting handouts, right? I'm not saying everyone and their mother is gonna get $1,600, $1,200. What I am saying is there's probably gonna be some sort of welfare in that period that pumps us out of a recession. I really don't think they're gonna slowly churn us out of one. No way, dude. What these people have shown us is that as quickly as they are to put on the band-aid, they're as easily as quick to rip it off. Right? Look at how high they inflated us in 2020, 2021. But at the same time, look at how fast they hiked us in 2022. Right? Where essentially like 5% Fed funds rate is almost to the exact same degree as Paul Volcker's 14%, 15%. There's something to be said about that, right? And geez, I know we kind of went off topic. I see New Bro here. New Bro, if you want to give your thoughts on 2022, not really from a price standpoint, but more so like from a fundamental standpoint, feel free and give your thoughts on how you see 2023 shaping up to be, brother. Good to have you here.
Hey, Wabi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think pretty similarly to y'all in the sense that regulation isn't going to happen tomorrow. This shit takes time. We're already seeing that the U.S. is behind in comparison to other countries, right? And not only that, I think U.S. regulators, knowing the power that the dollar has, they want to make sure that they do it as best as they can when they roll it out, and they want to let other countries kind of be the guinea pig in the arena and kind of see what works and what doesn't. Maybe that's giving them a little bit too much credit, but yeah, I think very similarly. Um, and from a fundamentals standpoint, um, I think that what will drive the next rally is going to be, personally, I agree that we could see like a 2016, 2017 style rally, and it would kind of make sense that things would be cyclical within or in between different cycles, right? Like the 2012 cycle is kind of like the 2021 cycle. The 2016 cycle will be like the 2024, 2025 cycle. That's my take. Um, and yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be um, more of like sovereign ownership of our money that'll kind of drive a Bitcoin bull, or if it'll be um, kind of like early front running for regulation, or kind of like the way Carter talks about it in the sense of buy distressed assets because they're the most reflexive whenever markets bottom, right? Like there's a lot of ideas that could kind of swirl around together, and I think that there's a number of different narratives. I do think that one thing is that if you look at surveys of younger people, they're more prone to be buying digital assets. And as younger people enter more of the workforce, you're going to have a greater proportion of people that will be looking to buy digital assets, crypto, Bitcoin, rather than going into stocks, going into real estate, going into equity. I think that there's just because it's more of a popularity in the younger demographics and age groups. But yeah, I agree, and I think it's like you were talking about earlier that since Anchor you haven't touched DeFi, and I'll admit I got liquidated on some assets on Aave in like June in that dump, so it kind of sucked. But I've done the same thing. Like I paid down the rest of my loan. I
New
got
bro,
partially liquidated, and
new
I'm
bro,
the
it's
same.
fine. It's
Oh
fine,
no, it's
bro.
fine. It happens.
Yeah,
It's
there's
tuition to the market.
there's a trap door at $720 on DeFi on Ethereum DeFi. If Ethereum were to trade under $720, the amount of liquidations would essentially take us to about $500-$600, which is
Yeah, and
where yeah.
that's part of what I've been saying is that the DeFi loans, in the sense of bear market fundamentals, right? Because we all want to talk about where a bull market's going to come from next, like what demographic is it, what part of the world, what narrative is it? Is it monetary policy? Is it like geopolitical uncertainty, whatever? But yeah, I think the fundamentals from the bear side, crypto has a lot more that could really wreak havoc. And that I completely agree. The DeFi loan side, and then also minor capitulation. Like you listen to Dr. Jeff, you listen to Matt, you listen to a number of other really smart people in this space, and they're really saying stay away from miners. And it's like we just saw Core Scientific file bankruptcy this week, and they were the number one miner, right? And originally in the middle of the bull, everybody thought that a lot of these miners were in a great setting. And like you mentioned in one of the chats, Wabi, that the current production price of Bitcoin is around 18K, pending what your energy resource is. I've seen some estimates that some of the miners in Texas get their energy as cheap as making it 14K, 14.5K per Bitcoin. And I think really that's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it's like Dylan LeClaire has talked about it, where in previous cycles, the hash rate goes up before minor capitulation happens. And that's like, we're in the middle of that. So, yeah, I think that there's still, let's just say, I think we need to be patient. I don't want to be like, I know Wabi and Adonis and others have heard my super turbo bearish takes, but I think a lot of it is just because um, there's still more capitulation to come from the people that have held through all of this. Not saying that everybody that's held through it's going to capitulate, but it's just more along the lines of when society squeezes people more than the markets do, they're going to look for liquidity where they have to, right? Like people in great setting that don't have a lot of debt, don't have a lot of leverage, and aren't really worried about it, have a good income, right? They're not going to be the people to capitulate. But I'm not even joking when I say that there are people that I've been in group chats with here on Twitter that are essentially, for like a not a better way to put it, but they're blown the fuck up. And they are getting their car repossessed, getting their house repossessed. And I hate to talk about this part. I really do. But the thing is that this is what happens in financial downturns is the people that were greedy are the ones that are going to hurt the most. And there's still a lot more of that to come, as unfortunate as it is. But yeah, from a fundamental standpoint, I think we have a better chance of the market going down in 2023 compared to going up. Yeah, of course we can see rallies, and I'm not going to rule it out. But like realistically, the absolute highest I think Bitcoin could go in 2023 is 28 to 32K, and that's more on the hopium side. I just think it as a contingency of like, I'm far more bearish than a lot of other people I talk to. Like I realistically see ETH at like 430, like in the summer. Maybe it's not going to happen that quickly. Maybe it takes longer. Maybe it doesn't go that low, right? And that's why I say it from like this is just my opinion where I think things are going to go. Because anybody that claims 100% certainty on where they think the market's going to go is foolish if they want to say that they're not willing to adjust and that they're absolutely certain something is going to happen. Yeah, my bias makes me think we're going much lower, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility of, like GCR calls for an echo bubble, or people want to compare the 2019 bubble, right? Like there are other ways to view it. A lot in the same. It's a relief bounce, right? I just think that we're going to get the relief bounce from lower, from, sub 10K. That's just my bias. But yeah, I think 2023 will be more of the year for the patient accumulators and the year for people that are risk managed enough to trade whatever the hell is going to happen. But I agree with a lot of the other sentiment that we could have a repeat of 22 and put in the high for the year in January. That's kind of how I'm positioning myself, at least. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
Can anyone hear me?
I was getting messages that you were losing connection. I can kind of hear you a little bit.
Yeah. I just messaged the producer, but yeah. Let me see. Yeah, we're in like the last like 10 minutes, anyways, man. So yeah, I just got a thumbs up. I got a thumbs up. So yeah, guys. So if any of you guys in the crowd want to come up, add in your thoughts. Try to keep it brief and concise. We can't really roll on the show for 2 hours like we sometimes do. So if you want to come up, feel free to
press that request button. I'll bring you up and ask any question you'd like as well. And
Hey, Wabi, I got a question for you.
Thank you.
What did you have for breakfast?
So I had a multi-grain pita with mozzarella cheese, hickory smoked barbecue turkey breast with tomatoes and green onions, with an Oreo chobani and a smoothie, a strawberry banana smoothie. That was pretty good.
Oreo Chobani.
Huh?
What's an Oreo Chobani?
Like a Greek yogurt that's Oreo flavored?
No, it's like vanilla chobani, and then it has like Oreo cookie pieces in a little cup, dude.
You put Oreos into your yogurt, dog?
Yeah, bro, that's what I'm talking about.
Damn, dude. You got all the moves.
And
Man, I remember when I first met you, man, you were telling me about how you put, Cool Ranch Doritos in your sandwich, and then I did it, and it changed my life.
Oh yeah, the Aki way, right? Yeah. But yeah, guys, just an FYI, I posted our Discord link up on top. We're about to cross 1,000 members. So if you want to join a community that has individuals that are awake around the clock, 24/7, every day of the week, feel free to join it. There's a vibrant community, and we're growing rapidly. You want to jump on board, make some of those friends, establish your connections during a bear market, so you can come out the other side during a bull market, fresh and prepared and ready to kill it next cycle. Especially given that a lot of us think that the next crypto market cycle is likely going to be the last one where it mimics what we've seen over the last 10 years. So feel free. Your network is your net worth. And just for clarification purposes, our community did expose FTX and did tell everyone to withdraw well before withdrawals had stopped. And yeah, you want to have people around you that are consistently in the know about the market. If you're an individual that doesn't really have the time to be informed, doesn't really have time to scroll Twitter, and you're more of an individual that is more of a listener, then feel free to follow the Because Bitcoin Twitter page. I do all of my spaces there Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. However, when I do have special guests on, it might vary. So that would really help you to keep up to date with these sort of spaces. Turn on the bell notification so you can be in the know. And we also have Market Talk with Carter, who does it at 4:15 Monday through Friday, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time, just for clarification. And we also have some YouTube live streams in the mornings and in the afternoons. So you want to check that out as well. And if you're listening on YouTube, give some feedback, click bell notifications, and also visit our website where you can be informed on daily articles when it pertains to the crypto and equity markets. And yeah, hopefully that sounded like a radio guy voice. I hope I sounded sexy to you all. So, what are you guys hoping for for 2023 Christmas? What do you want as far as crypto? Like, do you want BTC to be at 30K, 25K? Do you want BTC to be at 2K? What would be like something that you would want to see in the crypto market around this time next year? We'll start off with Adonis.
Fuck it, I'm gonna take the home run swing, 100K, dog.
100K?
You asked me what I want for Christmas, bro.
So just just to just to inform you guys, so I know I said that Hermes was gonna be the guest today. He wanted me to tell you guys. He says, tell everybody I'm super sad. On Wednesday, my calls were up 5x, but I decided to hold them to expiration and today they went to zero. I lost a lot. I can't say this next part. I really can't.
Say it. Say it.
Okay. All right.
Say
Let me-
it.
He said Santa took he said Santa took a shit in my stocking. So,
And the sad part is there were people that were trying to warn him.
I don't know, dude. Like with Hermes, he's in a different situation than us. Like his credit line is
Oh yeah,
pretty
he's
large.
totally set,
Yeah.
right?
It's just like his bluntness, like because I can imagine him saying it in his tone of voice. But hopefully if the S&P bounces from like 3,600 to 3,700, we can have him on this crypto specific show. So yeah, guys, last roll call. If any of you want to come up and join the convo or say anything, feel free.
I'm gonna go for the other side of Adonis's Super Bowl call, and I'm gonna say I would be super happy if Bitcoin was at 5K at the end of 2023. And I know I'm probably hated for that, but
That's to all bears. How could you, new bro? Come on, man. Dude, if you're gonna
Dude, right
say,
before Christmas.
come on, dude.
What a Grinch, dude.
He wants a Grinch rally, bro. Come on, man.
Oh, Rolo over here wanting the Grinch rally too, bro.
Bro.
hey, bears are just people that want to be bullish from lower prices.
Yeah. So guys, do we think Barry is gonna go under? Yes or no? I don't think he is. Do you think he's gonna go under, Adonis?
He's done ski.
Oh,
And how could we be bullish if we're saying Barry's Dunsky?
all
I
right.
think
I guess we're gonna have to find out for the Valentine's Day edition of Crypto World Radio, right?
I'll just say this quick. I think that like GBTC gets resolved. Maybe not necessarily for the holders, me being one of them. We'll see how that plays out. I'm pretty neutral on it though, but I may take some more pain, although I've taken enough. But the asset itself, I mean, there's some different things that could happen, and I think that it would just be more valuable for the fund to be taken over by another custodian. I don't see how this plays out where like DCG gets to liquidate it and like not like liquidate the fund and all their funds still not have enough money to pay their debt. I don't know. I kind of have an evolving view on it, but as of right now, I think
So are we?
DCG, all they're finished. My gut still tells me
All right,
Fidelity takes over GBG.
all right, we'll see. We'll see how that unfolds on the Valentine's Day edition of Crypto World Radio. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Christmas special of Crypto World Radio, hosted by myself, King Wabi, on behalf of our favorite sponsor, Because Bitcoin. I want to thank you all for showing up today. Thank you to our speakers, Adonis and Newbro, and the other individual that was here. I can't remember his name, but I want to thank you all for showing up. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you guys have shown me over the last couple of weeks. It's much appreciated, and I enjoy connecting with you guys. So look forward to our next show on Monday, and I'll see you all there. Merry Christmas. God bless you, and yeah, spend time with your loved ones. I hope you had a good breakfast, eat good food. And that about wraps it up here at Crypto World Radio. And if you want to catch a replay of the space, be sure to go on our YouTube page and click subscribe, leave some feedback.
And that's gonna be a wrap for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm going to get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians. You would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000, depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.